G'day, legends, and welcome to the Pot Noodle. We're back. So, how you going, Shane?
Yeah, good mate. Good. It's been lovely and cold here the past week and a bit. You'd be forgiven for thinking we'd dive straight into winter instead of spring. And I genuinely picked the worst time to go clean shaven for the first time in a year and a bit. That's for sure. It's been fresh as. But apart from that, I'm good.
It's not often I'm scruffier than you, mate. Jeez. There you go. Yeah, it's a bit chilly. I'm still trying to get used to all this warm. Like, I got the tan still, and then it's cold, and everyone's like looks at you like, huh? What? The old Fiji tan still hanging in there. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, got a bit to talk about tonight. There's the two of us, plenty of Shane waffle, everyone. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, we'll get into it. So I'll bring up a couple of comments here. So McLaughlin with the kangaroos, love it. Smell the glove, hail drongos. That's like it's almost like I wrote that post. It's the best. So I love being called a drongo. It doesn't get much better. Uh, there we go. A couple of dogs running, so good fun. So yeah. We'll get into the upcoming stuff because we've got to touch on this pod. We're going to talk about the Hearts game. We've got a couple of other little topics to talk about, and then we're going to preview the game against Slovan Bratislava for Wednesday night in the Champions League. So a little bit to get through, Shane. So what we'll do is we'll start off as usual with the starting lineup for our game against Hearts. So we won that one 2-0. Starting lineup was, as expected, Kasper Schmeichel in goals, Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, Scales, and Taylor at the back. Midfield was where the question was. How do you fit 4 into 3? So it was McGregor, Hatate, and Engels. So Bernardo got dropped after the derby. And then up front, it was Kyogo with Maeda and Kun. And then the thing for me going into that seeing the lineup, Shane, was it was the bench. Like, how deep is that bench? We had 6 international players coming off our bench. It was unbelievable. So you had Palmer, Eder, Macau, and Bernardo, Forrest, Trusty, Valle. There you go. Finally learn how to say it properly. Sinisalo and Ralston. So yeah, I'm liking the look of our squad, and we had a decent lineup. What was your thoughts when you saw the starting lineup?
Yeah, it was interesting to see Engels come in for a start. I was a little bit uncertain of whether he'd get a start before Champions League or not. But I think obviously Brendan wants to take a look and see what he can deliver, and particularly with our group stage matches just around the corner, literally just around the corner. I thought it made sense to bring him in. I'm actually quite happy Brendan went with the midfield three of Hatate, McGregor, and Engels instead of trying to maybe have Engels and Bernardo together. I was interested to see how those three would work. A little bit unlucky, Bernardo. He's done nothing really to warrant losing his spot. He was fantastic in the Glasgow Derby, but uh, you know, I think Brendan wants to get a good idea of what Engels is going to provide and how he can best use that in a very short amount of time. So apart from that, I think everyone else picked themselves. You couldn't really make any changes to the wingers. Maeda does an excellent job on the left. Kun's been in superb form. Really happy with Kyogo leading the line. So yeah, it was really just that one midfield spot, and yeah, had no qualms with him bringing Engels in for a start.
Yeah, so with that, Shane, like the whole point about the midfield and with Bernardo dropping out, the only reason you can think of that, as you just said, Brendan wants to see what he's got, and it's also about trying to build a bit of rotation. It's a club record signing. He's not going to be sitting on the bench. He's going to start. So at some point, it's either and Calmax your club captain. So either Hatate or Bernardo is going to be dropping out. And when Hatate went on the plane with Japan, didn't take the field, as I said on Thursday, he may have been a little bit jet lagged. That's it. But you can run that off. He hasn't played at all, so he's good to go. And then you've got Bernardo, who's been off playing with the Portuguese under-21s and got back a bit later than everyone else. So all things considered, it was the obvious decision to make when you look at the grand scheme of things. So yeah, you can't really complain about it. And then we've got enough squad depth there as well that we're talking about 4 midfielders, and then you've got McCowan coming in doing well as well. So yeah, it's going to be I like having competition there. It's a squad game, as we keep saying. So I'll get your thoughts on the first half of the game there, Shane. So what do you think of it?
Um, it was interesting because I thought we looked good. I thought we started pretty well. Engels had a really good opportunity early, which he just couldn't wrap his foot around. And we were looking okay, and Kun was getting on the ball and driving and making things happen. It was quite clear early on that they were going to sit really deep, and they really their whole emphasis was just trying to keep us out, and hopefully at some stage they could jag one on the counter, and they sat really deep. And what I noticed about the first half is this is the first 45 this season that we haven't scored early on. So there's been a number of matches where we scored within the first 10 minutes. And the Glasgow Derby, I think, was before the 20-minute mark. This time, we weren't able to find that crucial first goal. And I think as the half wore on, I felt like we were a little bit too patient. We kind of went back a little bit into our shell. I didn't think we were bad. I didn't think it wasn't without effort or anything like that, but more just I think we became a little bit too patient when it became apparent they were going to sit so deep. And because they didn't concede early on, I feel like that made them more resolute in their defending. And all that said, we probably had two gilt-edged chances and could have easily gone into halftime 2-0 up. You had the Kyogo miss early on when Gordon was sort of stuck. Does he twist? Does he stick? And then Kyogo missed the post. And there was one late on. I can't quite remember who it was, but I think it drew a save from Gordon. Like, for a half where I don't think we'd hit the heights and we really struggled to not necessarily break them down, but draw them out, it wouldn't have surprised me on the balance of those couple of chances that we could have easily gone in at 2-0, but we didn't. And I thought it was going to be interesting what we did in the next half after that. But yeah, I thought we're just a little bit too patient is probably the word I settled on.
I'll agree with most of what you're saying there, Shane, because it's pretty much what I wanted to say as well in terms of we didn't think, but I think that it's a combination. It's something that Smell the Gloves saying here. It's always a stuffy game after an international break with half the squad away in planes and time differences. So that's part of it. But then at the same time, it's also for me, like we had those opportunities, we didn't take them. Then there's a penalty. And I feel like Hart's got a bit of a pep in their step after that penalty. And we kind of went a little bit like, and took a step back, like, what's going on? It was more, that was a little bit of a turning point. Like, wasn't a massive change, but it was more, maybe a 5% more for them, 5% less for us. And it kind of leveled it out a little bit. But yeah, it's, other than that, like, 0-0 at half time. It wasn't 0-0 because of what they were doing. It was 0-0 because we didn't take our chances. That's the way I looked at it. So,
Yep.
yeah, it was a pretty easy one there. Mahesh is saying Celtic did enough in the data for a 2-goal win, but would have been better if it was more than just a penalty and a long-range specky. Celtic switched off after 60. I don't really think we switched off after 60, to be honest with you, Mahesh. A long-range specky, McCowan's one was from distance, but it wasn't a specky. If you're going to talk about a long-range one, more about Shanklin's one from distance that he hit that Casper got the save on. But for me, I just think it's a matter of new players trying to fit into a new system at a new club and haven't played together. Has McGowan played alongside and Bernardo, have they played alongside those three together with Ida? Like those two with Ida, have they played together? No, so you got to build combinations. So I don't think we switched off. I think we're trying to learn the other players in the squad and figure out you guys have got to learn what's expected of them in what situations on the pitch. So, yeah, at the end of the day, we got the job done at the end there. But yeah, so I had on the run sheet here, first half goals, missed a couple of good opportunities. You already touched on that, Shane. So I think we'll just roll straight into the second half chat. So over to you again.
Well, I was interested because we'd obviously commented a little bit last season about how sometimes we struggled to break teams down, particularly if they were playing in the low block. And it's probably the first time we've encountered that a little bit to such a strong degree this season. I was really interested to see what we could do at halftime. And I felt we were much better at halftime. I thought there was a renewed energy and there was a particular focus with getting the ball, particularly up front and into the wider areas, a lot more quickly. I felt we were much better at getting the balls into dangerous areas, I should say, before they had a chance to properly set up. I thought we were better at that. Didn't initially lead to anything until obviously the penalty, which I'm sure we'll touch on shortly. But I felt like we were putting them under a bit more pressure and they didn't seem to be as comfortable, which then obviously led to the goal. And then I want to comment on what you said before. I agree. I don't necessarily think we dropped off. I'll give them a little bit of credit. When they eventually came out and decided to play, I thought they actually lifted a bit and did put us under a little bit of pressure. And they created a couple of chances. And they, in all honesty, they probably should have had an equalizer. They had that gilt edge chance, which Schmeichel ended up saving, but they probably should have. They probably should have finished that. And then from, I think, that next phase of play, we then go and get the winner with McCowan. And I'm sure we'll touch on the goals in greater detail, so I won't focus on them just yet. But I'd agree with you in a sense. I don't think necessarily we stopped. I think they did come out and play and did put us under a bit of pressure. And that might tie into, obviously, we'd had about 80 minutes of them just literally sitting, playing the low block, not really offering anything. And then essentially coming out, maybe catching us off guard a little bit. But then it also ties in somewhat to the international break and where you're saying, players coming back, it might be a little bit sluggish and so forth. So, yeah, there was a comment earlier which said they won't all be beautiful wins. I totally agree. I think we ground this one out really well, and I still think there's a lot of positives in it. So it definitely wasn't a bad win by any stretch of the imagination.
I'll bring up that comment, Shane, that you just mentioned. So Pete McGee, no way there will ever be a season where every game is a beautiful win. And Pete's followed up with, we got the 3 points. I'm happy with that. John Clements is saying probably the first time this season we come up against a team defending really deep. Missed chances affect the performance. It could have been a walkover. Kyogo needs to take those chances on Wednesday.
Yep.
100%. And there's another comment here that I'm just trying to get to from Strangelove the Doctor. Sharks had an entire week to draw their anti-football game plan in. How'd that work out for them? The minute they tried to play, boom, goal, boom, goal. So we're talking about McCowan, and then we're talking about Eda's one that got chalked off. I think it was Palmer being offside while coming back. So, yeah, 100%. They're down a goal. They think, okay, we're a chance. Let's try and snag a goal to get a draw. And then whack, whack. It happens to them like that. So, yeah, it was a bit of an interesting one, all things considered. Question, comment section. Has Naismith been sacked yet? Can someone let me know? Because I haven't seen anything saying he's been sacked, but everyone's turned against him over there. For the first time in my life, I listened to a Hearts podcast today, and I feel like I lost about 20 IQ points doing so. But, yeah, they're losing their mind over him as well.
Well, for about 80 minutes, they offered nothing really apart from that speculative Shankland effort, which, I ummed and ahed whether it was a good save or not. It was moving, but it didn't seem to have the pace on it. Like at one stage, I was like, geez, that's a good save. And then I looked at the reverse angle and thought, was it? Like it seemed comfortable. Maybe he may put a bit of mayo on it than I initially thought.
You know what I thought it was? Anyone over here in Australia or anyone who's watched any rugby union, right? And a guy goes to score a try, and they got heaps of time, so they do that big swan dive to ground it. It was kind of like, to me, it was Casper looking on, I've got this. Okay, swan dive, catch. just fun. That's how I looked at it.
Yeah, I couldn't decide. Initially, when I saw it, I thought, geez, that's a cracking save. And then, like I said, I saw the reverse angle, thought, maybe not. Journeyman save. That's probably the best description of it. But for 80 minutes, they offered nothing. And this isn't unusual. I mean, under Nielsen, even when they might have been third in the league, they'd come to Celtic Park and they'd literally try and sit deep and contain and then hope they jag something on the break. But this was much more noticeable than before. Like they were sitting so deep. At one stage, I thought they were literally next to Gordon. They were that deep and they couldn't be drawn out. And it was like a wall. It was such a consistently focused low block that unless Shanklin was taking those long range efforts, they weren't going to create anything.
Yeah, so their game plan was so obvious. We know going in, they're going to sit deep and they're going to just go long and direct from the keeper. So Craig Gordon, someone in the comments said they feel bad for his old bones, having to play at his age. But all they did was so obvious. It was he gets the ball, boots it long, try and win a throw in, then quickly throw it in, get the throw in because you can't be offside off a throw in, and then try and either get a cross in or win a corner. That's pretty much what they're trying to do all game. There was no technical ability in the middle of the park. Anytime we got on the ball, they just tried to clatter us. And if we had a bit of a break, and you get on with it. Like Penrose, I honestly think he could have been sent off.
Oh,
He should have
yeah.
been booked for the first one that he got away with.
Yes.
And then the second one on Engels should have been a second yellow and a red. It could have even been a straight red, all things considered. You've seen them given. So he could have easily been off. So they got away with one. But yeah, it's a bit of an interesting thing.
Just imagine how deep they would have sat if they were down to 10 men.
They'd probably be halfway back down the freeway to Edinburgh. They were sitting that deep, right? There you go. I got my bearings right for once. Yeah. So, yeah, the second half goals. So, I'm going to touch on two things, okay? I'm going to go to McGowan's one first because I've mentioned it early on, and I want to come back to the penalty because that ties into the next thing we want to talk about anyway. So, McGowan, that goal, that was I've heard people saying it online, on Twitter, on the podcast, and like that. McGowan's come in and he's a late developer. Who else was a late developer in the midfield who's currently playing for us? Our skipper. He didn't make his debut and break into our first team till he was like 21 or whatever. McGowan's a little bit later on. I see when you hear him talking in interviews and you see him like having captain Dundee, he just gives me a lot of Kelmac vibes. And that goal was very Kelmac-esque. Get to the top of the box, then, just hit it nicely. Gordon should have done better when he got his hand to it, but it was traveling and it was on target the whole time. What a great way to get your first goal for your new club.
Yeah, and I could wax lyrical about this goal for a long time, and I have online a
Yep.
little bit, um, because it's all about the build up for me. He starts the move, he finishes the move, he gets on the ball really deep. At this point, Hearts are pressing us. They're trying to get that equaliser. They just had that gilt-edged opportunity. They're trying to win the ball back high up the park. He plays a couple of 1-2s. I think they're with Carter Vickers, and then eventually he's able to get the pass into the midfield. And that whole quality and the composure on the ball at that time when it was a little bit chaotic, to see from him controlling it and dictating it was so pleasing. But then he's able to get the ball into the midfield and get it to Palmer. And then what I didn't notice today until I watched back at it, you see Palmer looking to play Kun in right behind him. He's behind him. McCown's right behind him, and he's directing Palmer. Play Kun. He's pointing. He's saying, you go and play him that ball. And then makes himself available at the top of the box. It was the whole build up from start to finish he was involved in. The quality on the strike, sure, Gordon should have done better in all honesty, but these happen. And it was a rich reward for the build up that he'd been contributing to. And I was so I had to watch it a couple of times to fully appreciate his involvement from go to woe. And really, I think we've got to start there. Like, I'm genuinely to see that on show. Yeah, like I said, I could talk about this goal. You want waffle? I could waffle about this goal for a very long time. I don't think we could wrap the pot up soon enough. It was the quality on it and just the whole process from where he picks up the ball to where he puts it in the back of the net. Oh, mate, it was such a good goal, and credit to him. And yeah, fantastic.
The thing what you're saying, Shane, and I was when we first linked with McGowan, I was like, okay, I don't really know much about him other than what I've seen when we played against him. So I didn't have a lot of because I don't sit around watching Dundee games. So I didn't have a lot of knowledge of him as a player. However, when you're playing fantasy football and he's constantly racking the points up and the goals and the assists and the contributions and everything that he does, and he's captaining his team, you can never have enough leaders and guys who want to be out there and be that player. And the fact that he grew up in a Celtic family and you can see how much it means to him Yes, I know we said that about Shane Duffy, so I'm just gonna put that there. But seeing that, it's like he gets it, he knows what it's about, and he's getting out there and having a red hot crack at it, and I love that. For me, yeah, we only spent £1 million on him, and we bought him from Dundee, so it's not the sexiest move, but he knows the league, so we know he'll be able to step in and do a job domestically, and he seems like he's just happy to be here in terms of he doesn't have the ego, he's not gonna be in there kicking up a fuss if he's not starting every week, and he's living a family dream, and he's doing it for his family, so for me, I am I am pleasantly surprised by the player McGowan is, and the other thing for me is it also shows that there is still quality out there in Scotland who can come and do the job for us if we were to sign them. There's 3 players in the league that I was big on that I would have liked to see us sign in the summer, coming from another Scottish club, other Scottish clubs. One of them's now at the Huns, which is Barron. I liked him at Aberdeen last year. Now he's dead to me because he's officially a Hun. But the other 2 are the Millers. Lennon Miller, Motherwell, isn't he? And what's the Miller, the Aussie guy at
Ah,
Hibs?
Lewis Miller.
Lewis Miller. I don't mind either of those 2. I think they could do a job. Lewis Miller's massive and he would clatter someone. You imagine having a lineup at right back of Alistair Johnson, who can play football and clatter people, Lewis Miller, who can play football and clatter people, and then the Bricky just to do the job and go out there and smack people and can play a bit of football too. You'd be set. You'd never have an issue with that. So for me, like there's players there in Scotland that can still come and make those moves. So it's good to see that.
The last thing I'd say on the McCowan goal, and I can't emphasize this enough. I'm sure everyone's seen it, but if you get an opportunity again, go back and watch it and just appreciate the quality and composure of the lad during the whole build up phase. It is generally something to be celebrated.
Yep, 100%. So here we go, Shane. It's time. We've got to talk about the other goals and the penalty situation. So there's a comment early on that I wanted to bring up. So when I asked about has Naismith still got his job, McLaughlin's saying the penalty thing on Saturday is what Naismith will be using to keep himself in a job for now. Yeah, fair point. And then McLaughlin's also followed up saying was only a referee showing his true colours with those 2 penalties. And that's the thing for me. Both of them went against us initially. So VAR did its job. But the thing is, okay, if we go to the first half one, where did the ball, Shane? Where did it hit Scales first, in your opinion?
Uh,
On the arm or the shoulder?
When I first watched it, when I saw it live first time, I thought it hit his hand. So I said in our group chat, I think it's a pen. But then when I rewatched it, it hit him here. So the shoulder, what I'd consider the very top part of the arm, the shoulder, if you want to call it the t-shirt part of the arm.
Where the stitching is?
Yeah, around here. Yeah.
Yes, where the bicep joins into the shoulder. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you want to talk about it like that, sure. I can't put it that eloquently. I just said here and pointed, and those who are listening on will have no idea what I'm talking about if
That's
you're not
why I
watching it on
explained
the
it for you,
vision.
Shane. Well, Shane, that's why I explained it for you for those listening to the audio version of the pod.
Sorry to those tuning in on the audio version of the pod.
So yeah, like it hit him. I agree. I thought it hit him like on the shoulder and the top of the bicep. So for me, I was like, yeah, his arm was up, but he was turning around. His arm was already in that position before he turned, and the ball came to him, and he had no room to time to react to it. So for me, that's never a penalty. The fact that that was given as a penalty was a disgusting decision to begin with. I can't wait for the Willie Collum video review on that to hear about it. And then in the second half, something similar, another handball, but this time when you're closing down a winger, there's a difference between having your arm up, turning around in the box when the balls come in, there's like headers going on or whatever, or being the defender nearest to the winger, putting the cross in and having an arm up in an unnatural position. That's clear pen, especially once the ball hits your hand, then pull them back like, oh, well, I didn't do anything. Mate, it was obvious. Penalty every day of the week. What was your thoughts on that, Shane?
Oh, yeah, I think with the first, just going back to the first one for a second, it's not a pen. I'm pretty sure the updated sort of rulings or laws of the game are that if that you have that kind of t-shirt silhouette, and if it hits you on the upper part of the arm where you pointed out where the bicep meets shoulder, that basically that's too high up on the arm. So from my understanding, if that's where it hits him first, it can't be a penalty. But secondly, that was very much a ball to hand situation, not hand to ball. That's knocked down. He's midair jumping. Even if it hits him on the arm, it would have been very unlucky to be given, because really he didn't have any chance to, control that. So all in all, it was an interesting decision because it was a very delayed call. The ref doesn't give it initially. He lets play go for a little bit and then blows for it. So I found that interesting. He didn't blow immediately for it. He waited, paused, and then blew for the penalty. And I did wonder if that was him going, well, I've got VAR to back me up if I get this wrong. So I found his delay a little bit unexpected. I think those who are on Celtic TV, which I was tuned into at the time, seemed also taken aback by the delay as well. It just seemed to linger for a little bit. But credit to VAR and whoever was in the VAR booth, because they got it right. When you look at that vision, I think it's quite clear that's not a penalty. And so I'm glad we got to the eventual decision on that one. The second one, the penalty that we got, I think is definitely a penalty. And I agree with your summation of the situation. He's running, he's closing down the winger. I don't think, he could do better to take his hands out of that, particularly, the way that he flails them forward, I think is unnecessary. He makes himself bigger. He's stopping the trajectory of the ball. And, if his hands aren't there, that's a dangerous ball coming into the box. I think that's clearly a penalty. And that one was much more hand to ball as opposed to ball to hand. So again, I wasn't surprised it wasn't given. Maybe that maybe my cynicism showing here. I wasn't surprised that was not given. But again, VAR gets the right call eventually. So I think you could say the ref had a bit of a poor performance, but credit where it's due for whoever was in their VAR booth. The two decisions that they overturned, they made the right calls in the end.
They have to look at it because they know Willie's listening. Willie Collum is listening to everything and reviewing, and they don't want to be caught out and put on blast on the YouTube channel, whether it's every week, fortnight, every month, whatever the review is. And as Pete McGee saying, the game will be ancient history before we get another column review. It's also going to be every month. But the thing there, Shane, like what you're saying, the second one, he had his hand in an unnatural position. It's the exact same thing as if, say, you do a slide tackle and you've got your hand on the ground and the ball gets played into that hand on the ground while you're making a slide tackle. That's a natural position, so that's not a handball. But if your other hand's up as you're sliding in and it hits that, then that's unnatural, making yourself bigger, so it's a penalty. It's the exact same thing. It's whatever it makes you is an unnatural position. So it's about time VAR starts working, but there's still a long way to go to get this thing better. And the only reason VAR gets spoken about so much is because the refs with the whistle in their mouth to begin with are so incompetent.
Well, the first one's really interesting because of the delay, and I hate to harp on about it. But just the fact that he waits and then pays the penalty. Like, you'd think you'd go, well, I've got VAR in the booth. I don't think it's a penalty. I'll let that go, and I'm sure if I missed it, they'll correct me.
I
But
actually
he seemed
didn't
to
mind that.
wait. You didn't mind? I thought it was weird.
You know why I didn't mind it? Because when it came off scales, where'd the ball end up? With their player who put a shot into the back post and Kyogo's cleared it off the back. So he's played an advantage.
Oh,
If they
okay.
had have scored, if Kyogo hadn't have cleared it and it had have gone in, would they have even had to have worried about the penalty and go into the VAR? No, he was sort of paid the goal and play on. So I actually didn't mind that. Let
Okay.
the first play.
I'm probably not thinking about it in that kind of logical capacity. I'm just so used to them blowing up straight away that I just found that delay really weird. But you're right. Now that I think about it, he was just letting advantage roll.
Yep. So we've got some comments here. So Pete McGee couldn't tell from the TV coverage where it hit scales. Looked like hand to man. Even the VAR footage wasn't that clear from where I was sitting. Just glad we got the verdict. McLaughlin was saying there's not even half a yard between Scales and the attacker. Smell the glove. Father Willie Gollum's influence beginning to work. The Huns trying to end his career has really pissed him off. Love the conspiracy stuff. Andrews hit him high, but we've had them paid against us. Yeah, last year against Hearts, what happened? The Tomoki Iwata penalty for the exact same thing. Well, actually less. So swings and roundabouts, I suppose. Like we didn't get it last year, we've got it this year, and they've changed the point of emphasis. So I'll take that.
That remains one of the worst handball penalties I've ever seen. That decision against Iwata last year, or last
Yep.
season, I should say.
McLaughlin's saying at hour one, the ref's saying it was a corner. So he's played an advantage on that too, and then said corner rather than going and look at it. And then McLaughlin saying Colin Stevens is name of the ref. I won't forget him.
Okay.
Andrew Galea, their defender lifts both hands up to the ball. It's a penalty every day, 100%. Strangelove is saying, isn't it called a deliberate handball? Celtic player was in natural shape and moving naturally, and it hit his shoulder. I love how you keep calling them sharts. I'm very childish like that. Love it, Strangelove. Sharts fella reaches out to slap the ball away, then lies about it. Total cringe. Pete McGee, our pen was a stonewall. Yeah, so it's one of them for me where the right decisions were made at the end of the day. So we picked up the 3 points. We talk about it now, but in a month's time or 2 months' time, we're not really going to be worrying about this or talking about this too much more unless it keeps occurring.
Not
So
really, but the transparency side of things is interesting. We obviously saw Willie Collum come out, this week, and they went through that sort of going through the decisions being made, and they flagged one that probably should have gone our way that didn't. And I think that is going to play a part. I think transparency and being able to show where things need to improve realistically should only lead to improvement both on the pitch and in the VAR booth in terms of our referees. So maybe it needs to be more than a month. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but I like the idea of it, and I'd like to think it'll have a positive impact across the league in terms of our referees. As I said, both those who are actually reffing the game on the pitch and those in the VAR booth.
yeah, 100%. So off the back of that, Shane, what I thought was funny was how Hatade grabbed the ball like he wanted to take the penalty. And then Kalmack comes over, has a chat to him, and he's just having a big smile on his face. And then he hands the ball over to let Engels get his first goal for the club. I thought that was pretty funny because last season we had, 5 different penalty takers, and Hatade scored 2 of them. And he's like, oh, come on, give me the ball, captain. Give me the ball, skipper. And it's like, nah, mate, new bloke gets it. Let's get him the confidence. So I thought that was kind of funny to see. But you've seen players in the past when they get the ball taken off and will have to hand it over, they feel all shitty and they sulk.
Yeah.
And Hatade does seem to be that emotional one where he can look a little bit upset here and there. Oh, there you go. Where's that Claxton from the comment early on? There was a comment early on that was made, but yeah, it was for me. I just think it was kind of funny in terms of he could have got the huff, but he didn't. And Pete McGee was, I've got my Claxton set for the first claim. Hatade wants away, doesn't look interested, face tripping. I was close, Pete, but you don't get to hit your Claxton. There you go.
It was a good moment, and you're right. Players can normally go one of two ways with it, but he and Hatate, I think if we focus on him for a second, hadn't had the best of games really. I think he'd been, I wouldn't say really poor, but maybe underwhelming in comparison to Engels and McGregor, and so he's probably wanting to get his own game kick-started as well and get himself into a little bit of rhythm. But Kalmack's got that great influence to say, no. We want Engels to get his account underway. As you said, Jared, we want him to build his confidence. And Hatate seemed totally fine with it and showing that he's that kind of team player. And I think afterwards, Rogers even came and checked on him, put his arm around him, and he seemed fine. So I think that shows a good cohesion with the boys. And good on Kalmack for sensing the occasion too and saying, no, there's an opportunity here. Let's not let this go to waste.
Rogers loves to give players a good cuddle too, so Hatade will be right. Like Andrew's saying, Hatade returned depressed after not getting a look in for Japan. RL77 couldn't help himself. There you go.
The old.
Yeah, we'll give him a wind up. So we got two little comments to finish this thing. So what we've got here, heavy vibes. Love that the new Hun and junior Huns are going batshit because Celtic were treated fair in a game for once. And as Pete McGee saying, what it all comes down to yet again is the referees in Scotland are absolutely shit. I think they're the final sort of things on the whole penalty situation. We'll leave that one there and move along because I said in our little private chatty, Shane, I'm like, geez, we're like 33 minutes in. I feel like it's only been 20. So
You got to be careful when you let me waffle. That's all I'm saying.
it's good fun. So I'll let you go. Two players that you wanted to touch on and your man of the match.
Two players I wanted to touch on.
Or
So
go one.
all right, I'll pick Kun. So I want to focus on Kun. And Jared, if you're watching, I'm doing it. I'm doing it for you. I'm picking your boy. I'm doing this, and I mean this in all sincerity. I thought in the first half he looked really, really good, and he was really important. And particularly early on, I thought he was central to what we were creating. And I think he ended up creating the most chances in the game. I think he was genuinely the kind of the one that was driving us forward. And early on, he was getting the ball and he was driving and he was trying to draw them out. And I just really valued what he was bringing in terms of the energy. And particularly as they were sitting so deep, it was really important. So I thought Kun was really good. I know there was a lot of talk about Engels and him being man of the match. To be honest, I probably didn't have him in that category, but I won't give away who mine was just yet. But I thought Kun was stellar in that first half. And, he was unlucky, not to finish with an assist or something like that. I thought he was really important.
I'll just go with Calmac. The fact of the matter is old, trusty, reliable out there, does the job. We're talking about the penalty thing. He did that. He kept it all under control, and he just keeps things chugging along. And I was actually going to go with Kun, but you took it, Shane. So I went Calmac. I'm like, who can I go that I haven't gone so far this season? So Calmac, give him a pat on the back there. My man of the match. It's pretty simple. I'll give it to Engels. What do you got, Shane?
I had him slightly shaded. I probably had him slightly underneath Kun as well, but my man of the match was actually Carter Vickers. I thought he had a really good game, and I don't think he's necessarily hit the same heights he has in previous seasons just yet. I think in most games this season, you could argue that Scales has actually been the better of the two centre halves on the pitch. But I thought against Hearts, I thought he was the better of the two, and he was really important. And particularly as the game started to get stretched in that second half, he won a couple of crucial one-on-ones, and he was really important in stopping them, particularly as they started to play. He became that brick wall that we're so used to, and he was starting to win the ball high up the park. And yeah, just a couple of crucial one-on-one wins that actually stopped their momentum. I thought he was fantastic. So I ended up giving it to Carter Vickers. I thought he was solid throughout, but as I said, as that game got longer and they started to actually play a little bit, I thought his importance really shone through. So I had Carter Vickers slightly ahead of Kun and Engels.
Reason I said Engels is I'm liking the fact that we've actually got a proper box-to-box midfielder who will get back and defend, will get forward and get up with the attack. And Shane's laughing, so he's lost it here.
No,
Pete
I'm laughing
McGee,
at that last comment from Pete McGee.
Well done. Give him a slow clap. If Kelmac is old trusty reliable, will Trusty be old Kelmac reliable? If he can unseat Scales and get onto the pitch and do well, then yes, he will. There's going to be some ripper puns for podcast episodes if he gets in the team and starts doing all sorts of good stuff. I'm telling you,
old trusty.
Yep, could be an interesting one. So
trust the process, mate. Trust the process.
So just who we trust. Get all your trusty puns into the comments, and also let us know where you're going to be watching the game from on Wednesday night. Like I'll be watching it from the My Couch CSC behind the flag here, and then going to work. But yeah, it's going to be a long day for us on Thursday because I'll wake up, watch that, work, come back, do the Thursday session at night. It's going to be a long day. So I think I'll get Shane levels of waffle on Thursday from me.
You've been
But yeah,
warned, everybody.
so Shane, I want to get your thoughts on the whole. You see the tunnel and the change room stuff that they've the work that the club's done for the Champions League. Have you
No, I'm not
seen?
across this. No, I'm not across this.
I know you like this sort of stuff, so I'm going for it. So the tunnel, which has always been white going in and out, there you have it.
Oh, look at that.
So the
How cool does
Celtic,
that
it's
look?
all green. It looks nice. The tunnel doesn't really look wide enough to have two teams stand there side by side, though.
No,
It reminds
no,
me
it
of the old
doesn't.
Perth tunnel.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, the old Perth Glory Tunnel.
And then in the change rooms, they've got some LEDs in and different things like pride in the badge and a few other different sayings around the place. So it makes it look a bit sleeker. And then just before you come out of the tunnel, you've got welcome to paradise and the badge above the tunnel there. So yeah, just some basic little things around the club that they've spent some money on making it look a little bit nicer and everything like that. So yeah, I just think that's quite a nice little touch. It's good to see, constantly just evolving and updating your stadium year by year, whether it's new screens or disco lights or put some money into doing that up while also building the whole setup down at Barrafield. And then you've got guys across town who, have to rent a stadium and lose £1 million a month because they're homeless. So great fun.
Well, that's the first time I'm seeing the change room stuff, and I really like that. And sometimes it gets lost sometimes when we're sort of doing updates to the stadium, and we're putting the lights in and making things a bit better for the fan experience. But you also want your players who are extremely important stakeholders in what you're trying to achieve. You could argue the most important stakeholders in what you're trying to achieve. Um, you want them to enjoy what they do. And I think having the change rooms like that and showing your investment in that and showing them, well, we really value what you do and what we want you to bring. So here's some state of the art changes to where you prepare. I think as a player, look, it's not the be all and end all. Don't get me wrong, but I think as a player, you get a little bit of an extra sort of I guess a good feeling about the club looking after you a bit in that regard. So I'm really happy to see it, and it looks great. I love the color scheme. I love the LED lights and everything. I think that looks fantastic, and yeah, I think the players would really enjoy it.
RL77 saying he's disappointing that there's no live, laugh, love sign in the lights there. But yeah, as you're saying, Shane, it's good to see him like little things like that getting done. And the thing as well is that we're constantly updating. So when they first put up those banners outside with like Celtic Park around it or whatever, and then Paradise and all these different ones, so different things like that, it looked a lot nicer. And then you do little things like this and it looks nicer. And it's just like, okay, it doesn't cost a lot. It's probably cost us to do that the same that, Rangers probably have to spend on, a player, you know, that they're loaning for a season. Little things like that doesn't cost a lot, but we can spend money on our facilities and keep them going nicely. I was waiting for this one. Maybe they'll fix up Celtic TV next. Yeah, I bloody well hope so as well. But yeah, it's good to see them doing little things like this. It's a step in the right direction.
They're
Now,
going to need to fix that up if I can jump in real quick, because after the penalty was given on the weekend, it disconnected for me for like a good 6 minutes. And I had to like follow on text stream wise to find out whether the penalty, was given, whether they scored or whether it was even kept or overturned. So it had a couple of outages whilst I was watching, and I think while a few others were as well. And it's not great. You want to get on top of that. So fingers crossed, Andrew, that's next on the agenda.
remember last year, Shane, when we are at the supporters club watching the game and it went out as well, and you've got like 200 people standing around like, what's going on? And then you and me got the phone going, yeah, because we scored, because we put it on the, managed to get it on the phone on the dodgy thing like that. It's an ongoing thing. It's been happening years upon year upon year upon year. Eventually, they're gonna have to do something about it. But anyway, last thing I wanted to touch on before we get into the preview of the Bratislava game is Kasper Schmeichel equals a league record for most clean sheets to start the season in 5 straight games. The exact quote for it is Celtic goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel equaled a 118-year record this afternoon. The Danish international kept his 5th consecutive clean sheet, which is the first time a goalkeeper has not conceded in their first 5 games since 1906-1907. So to me, I think that's setting us up well for the season ahead. The goalkeeper who did that back then was also at Celtic, if what I read was right, but it was a goalkeeper on loan from Rangers to Celtic because one of our players got injured by them leading into it. Yeah, so this was a bit of an interesting one. But yeah, it's I was thinking about it today, and I'm like, geez, if it was Joe Hart doing that to start this season, if he was still playing, I had the best podcast episode name ready to go, Shane. Take a guess what it is.
Oh, I'm tempted to say Heart and Handball.
Yep. Because I've gone handballs in history, it would have been Heart and Hand Ball. But I would have spelled it Joe Hart that way, and then yeah, I had that ready to go.
Oh, I did wonder. I feel
Well
like
done.
we're working together. This is good. This is good stuff.
Yep. So leading into the game on Wednesday night, it's 5 a.m. Thursday morning kickoff for us over here in East Coast of Australia. So that's going to be a good fun one. Shane's looking like, oh, set the alarm early.
Yes, very much so.
So what we've got is Willie, who's on our Thursday pod. He did a bit of a deep dive into Slovan Bratislava. So I'm just going to read through what the info that he's put out there, and then we'll discuss that and talk about the game. So what Willie has said is Champions League build-up begins, and here's my take on the opponent, Slovan Bratislava. Vladimir Weiss's men are known for their possession-based football, pressing high up the pitch, and they look to the high pressing and quick transition style of play. Setup typically sets up in a 4-2-3-1 formation, although they are very adaptable and can switch to a 4-3-3 or even an old-fashioned 4-4-2. They focus on maintaining possession and controlling the tempo of the game. The midfield three of Tolik, Basagian, and the Hun. I know he's talking about Vladimir Weiss, the manager's kid, and the Hun sit in front of a double pivot of Ignatenko and Soski. I'm absolutely butchering names here, and play a crucial role in dictating the flow of the game. With the short, sharp passes, fullbacks Wimmer and Blackman offer additional width when pressing. He's gone pressing. Slovan Bratislava presses high up the pitch, winning the ball back quickly and creating scoring opportunities. From set pieces, they are dangerous from set pieces with tall physical players and clever delivery. Counter-attacks, quick transitions catch opponents off guard, allowing Slovan to exploit open spaces. This is where Celtic need to be wary. We will see them allowing us to play and then try and hit us on the quick counter and exploit open spaces. That one there straight away makes me think of Greg Taylor inverting and getting caught out of position because of his height, like it's happened in Europe the last few years. Weaknesses, defensive vulnerability. Slovan can be exposed on the counter-attack, particularly if their fullbacks are caught high up the pitch. Aerial duels. Despite their physical presence, Slovan can struggle with aerial battles, particularly from long balls. That's got Scales and Carter Vickers' names written all over it there. Key player, Tigran Barseglian, 6 goals and 1 assist this season domestically. The Armenian winger is in top form and will give Greg Taylor a tougher test than he's faced all season. Willie's verdict is a winnable game for Celtic, but one in which we must not go in underestimating the opposition. Slovan has a reasonable away record in Europe and will definitely look to draw us in and hit us on the break. So it concludes my basic info searches. So what did he write here? What's I love what Willie just chucks random stuff in. So yeah, Willie's had a bit of a deep dive into that for us. So on top of that, they could also be without their manager, Vladimir Weiss, for the matches. He's been sick and he needs a medical clearance to be able to be fit enough to travel to Glasgow for the match. So, Shane, what are your general thoughts heading into the game?
Yeah, it's to be fair, and I mean no disrespect to them, I don't know too much about them apart from what Willie's put together, which is a really good detailed rundown. So shout out to you, Willie. I don't know an awful lot about them in the Slovakian Premier League. Sorry. So I'm interested, similar to what I've seen in the comments. I'm looking forward to seeing what they produce. I don't have much of a good idea of what they're going to produce apart from what Willie said. So I'm excited to see a little bit of that unknown element. And I'm stealing your comment here a little bit, spell the glove with that. I want to see. I'm really focused on what we do. It does sound like, from what you've described, that some of the, I guess, our weaker areas where we've been exposed before are potential opportunities for them to expose us again down the left with Greg Taylor and so forth. I think you're right. If they struggle with the long ball, that does have Carter Vickers and Scales in good, I guess, in good position to deal with that and to make sure that they're not letting it get over the top and stuff like that. I'm really more focused on what we're going to do and how we're going to play. And particularly if we're going to sort of fall into the trap of letting or having them dictate and not break through and them hitting us on the counter, or whether we're going to be a little bit more intuitive with the way we play. It's hard to really give you too much of a grasp on it. I can see they're top of the Slovakian league, 5 wins, 1 loss. Goal difference of only 3, though. They lost recently 5-0 to second place. I think it's pronounced Zelina. So not coming in with great form. They did go through the qualifier stage and they beat FC Midtjylland to get through. So they've had to go the long way to get through to where they are now. So credit to them. I'm not really sure. I'm starting to waffle a bit, so I might stop there. But yeah, very interested to see what they bring, because simply I just don't really know what they're going to bring.
So I had a bit of a look today, and the only thing that I can come up with is that, other than what Willie's already spoken about, is that the way they play, where they like to sit and hit you on the counter, and then once they get up in their forward half, they set there. Then if they lose the ball, they try and press you back there, and if they don't, then they just fall back again. It's very similar to the way the Huns have been playing this season, and when we played them a few weeks back. So when I was watching the game, I'm looking at it going, this looks very familiar, like it's the sort of game we would get when we play against Rangers. The only issue is Bratislava has better quality players who can actually finish in front of goals. So Smell the Glove was saying, looking forward to the unknown on Wednesday. We could be outplayed and lose 2-0, or we could hump them 3 or 4-0. All I know about this team is, ex-Hun's dad is the manager. Pete McGee saying, in other words, Bratislava will pluck every team in the Champions League at Parkhead. Yeah, pretty much. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting one for us to see the development, because this starting back line, realistically, you take Joe Hart out, put Casper in. It's a slight upgrade in goalkeeper, right? Then you've got that back line, which is the exact back line that was playing Champions League last year. So you've got that experience. Then you got Kelmack sitting in front in the 6. So you've got that back area that is settled. Let's see if we learnt from last year coming on to this year. It's good to see if there's going to be progress there. What we've got.
I was going to say, just to jump in, I tend to come in with this a little bit of optimism. I think there's pressure on this fixture, right? And again, I mean no disrespect to them, but I would look at them and say, and I don't think it's necessarily just them. This is our first Champions League fixture. And as you're saying, we want to see what we've learned. It feels like there's a lot riding on this opening match day 1 for us, particularly with it being at Paradise. We want to get a good result. Let's be honest, we want to win. And if we were to go down 2-0 or 3-0, the jungle drums about our poor European performances are going to be loud, right? But when I think about it, and this is the more positive spin on it, you look at the way we've played this season in comparison to the last, and I do go on about this a little bit, but our form under Rodgers this season and the way we're playing is so much better than the same time last season. Our midfield and our front 3 are gelling really well. There's a controlled way that we're playing, but we've still got a cutting edge to us. And so when you made the comment about what have we learned, how are we going to approach this differently? Can we see if we do things better? I really think we can, because from what I'm seeing in the league, we look miles better than this same point last season. Why can't we do it in Europe? So I'm somewhat, I have trepidation because I feel like this result is crucial for us, but I also have a lot of confidence in what I've seen in the league this season to think that we can actually do really well and jag a win against them.
You look at our fixtures that we've got at home, and the majority of them we should be picking up points in. So this is one where I think we should be getting out there, taking the game to them, not not show them too much respect, but show them enough, if that makes sense. So we know you guys can play, we know you've got talent, but guess what? So do we. We're at home. We've got 60,000 Tims in the building with us. Let's get out there and play. And the thing is, I think we can get out there and get a result and get all 3 points. And I'm going to go to some quotes from Brendan where what he said, where it says the Hoops Gaffer promised fans the mindset is strong and we are ready to attack the competition. We know the level we'll be playing at, but that's okay. We'll go and give it everything. We want to make a real positive start on Wednesday. We'll never forget our bread and butter because it's so important. It's the lives of so many supporters. We can never ever discount that. We can never ever think it's easy.
Yeah.
People say it's easy here. It's certainly not easy because of the demand of expectation and the mentality that you succeed. Thankfully, we have a winning culture here, but we have to make the next step, and that means Europe. At the highest levels, it was a real tough challenge for us last season, and for so many really good managers before me, it has been challenging too. But we're hoping now that with a strong squad, with improvements still make in our play, we can go and we can really attack it, and we're excited for that. And that's great to hear. Like, I know Rogers always sounds good in a press conference. He always says the right thing, but I actually think we can get out there and have a crack at him. So yeah, imagine we go out there and we win good, proper, win 3 or 4-0, for instance. I think I'll get a nosebleed from us being so high up in the ladder. I'll be like, "What the hell is this?" We're looking down at what? It's gonna be strange. So yeah, it's gonna be a good one. But yeah, we'll move it along here. So what are the key areas for us to focus on to win the game, Shane?
Uh, I think for me, when it comes to Europe, I think taking our chances is key, right? Being able to bury the opportunities we get. And we talked about earlier on the weekend where we had a couple of opportunities and we didn't take them. When you're in Europe, you have to take those half chances. That Kyogo goal, if he's got it in a similar position, um, he has to score that. It can't go past the post. You know, I think to me, it's about actually burying the opportunities you get. You can say it's the midfield. I think there's definitely areas on the park that we can focus on. But when we come down to the nuts and bolts of it, if you take your chances, I think you win. And we've gone through previous campaigns where we've had chances and we didn't take them and we lost. So if we can just have that cutting edge and make sure that if we get that half chance that we do score, I think that's pretty much all we need to do. I think we can control the rest of it. All of the other controllables, I think we can take care of. You know, I think the midfield, I think that can hum with the certain three that we play there. I think our wingers are in superb form. I think Kyogo's got the cutting edge, but we've just got to score.
So that's Robert Gibson saying, "Score more goals than them will win the game." So
I mean,
obvious.
it's so. I mean, I could have put it so much more eloquently, and I could have just said it like that. But you get the waffle. You have to put up with the waffle, guys.
Yeah, so for me, looking at it, Shane, it's like, yeah, what you said is about taking our chances, but at the same time, it's about holding our nerve at the other end. We want to play our game. We want to attack. For us to do that, there's going to be times where we get caught out with players like, as I was mentioned earlier, Taylor inverting or Alistair Johnson pushing up and overlapping Kun, where we could get caught out, players slightly out of position. And the thing is, the last few years in Europe in particular, when we've been in the middle of the park, I've thought we were too small and not athletic enough. And Rogers has said he wanted size and athleticism. And my next question I'm tying into this is, Shane, because it all works, is who will start in the midfield? So which two out of Engels, Hatate, and Bernardo will join Kelmac in the middle? For me, I know they haven't played together yet, but I think Hatate will be on the bench. I think it'll be Engels, the whole 6 foot whatever he is, and Bernardo, the 6 foot he is, who did well in Europe, and Kelmac in the middle, which just gives us that size, athleticism, and we can go box to box with those guys. So I actually think that's this middle of the park. That's how we'll line up there.
Um, and it totally ties in with your comment about being bigger in the midfield and having athleticism, and that's what Engels in particular provides in such great volume, right? But I would say yes to that if I had seen them play in the league together, and because I haven't seen them together just yet, I don't think that's going to be what Rogers goes with. I actually think Bernardo is going to come back in for Engels, and I think Hatate stays in. And what he may not have in size, I think he has in dynamism. And so I think he's going to be really important. And there are times where you just need him. Sure, he might give the ball away every now and then, but you need him to play and try those defense splitting passes. And it's going to be crucial if we're struggling to break them down. If they're trying to sit on the counter and absorb a little bit and then get at us, we're going to need someone to do that. So I think he will bring Bernardo back in. Engels goes to the bench and Hatate keeps his spot.
Rio, if he was to start, he'll be in the middle looking to put that ball in behind the centre backs for Kyogo to run onto. Okay,
Yep.
so I can understand that. Bernardo has that passing range too. So it becomes a question of what does Rogers value more? That penetration on that pass coming from the middle of the park, or having a guy like Bernardo who can cover for Kelmac if Kelmac's got to slip out to left back to cover for Taylor being out of position, or if Kelmac has to go across to right back because Johnson's out of position, and having Bernardo or Engels, someone in that size, dropping back into that spot to hold it. What's he going to value more? Having that defensive shape and discipline covered, or having that penetrating passing ability? Because I know Engels has that pass in him as well. We've seen it on the footage and everything that he was doing in the Bundesliga. So it's going to be it's what's he going to value more?
But one of the things that Rogers commented on after the game for Engels is he commented about his positioning and how he needs to. He didn't say it was a negative, but he just needs to improve. He needs to understand a bit more how to gel with the rest of the team, particularly in the midfield three. And he commented specifically on his positioning. I just find it really unlikely that he's going to try and put a midfield three together that hasn't actually played a game together, particularly after that comment. Now, maybe he's just putting it out there as a way to throw the opposition off. I don't know. He could be playing 4D chess, right? But I just don't see it happening after that. So when they play in the league, if they'd played against Hearts, yeah, I'd be all in. But I'm not thinking he'll run with that immediately.
So then does he keep Bernardo on the bench then and keep the same midfield three from the weekend? Because if they played together and they played a lot more football together than the others, the options are either Engels or Bernardo then. But for
Look, I
me,
definitely think the midfield between Engels and Bernardo is the start. Sorry to cut you off. I jumped in a bit early there. But I definitely think Engels and Bernardo is the one spot that's going to change.
all right then, Shane, what's your expected starting lineup?
Okay, so Schmeichel in goal, Taylor left back, Scales, Carter Vickers, Johnston at right back, Hatate, Kelmac, and Bernardo in the midfield. And my front three are Maeda, Kyogo, and Kun on the right.
Cool. Because there was a comment early on where someone said they'd start Ida instead of Kyogo. I wouldn't, but he is a good option to have to mix it up in Europe if we need an out ball. So for me, yeah, I would go the same as you, except I would have Bernardo. I'd have Bernardo and Engels with Rio off the bench, just because of the size. And yeah, we want to get off to a good start. So that's the only difference there. Pick it on the short people, Shane. Hey, you represented yours. Your lot.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Short Person Society. I got to back my boys up. Come on, Rio.
So the question is, what's the score prediction for you, Shane, to wrap the pot up?
I reckon we concede, unfortunately, but I'm very confident in us jagging a win. So I'm going 3-1 win. Kyogo, Kun, and Hatate to all score.
I'm going to go with a 4-2. And one of them's going to be with Greg Taylor getting caught out. And then that might mean we'll have to see Valle play a bit later on, start to get into the game. But yeah, I think it'll be 4-2. Kyogo a double. And then we'll have one for Kalmack and one for Engels. No, one for Kun, one for Engels. And then smell the glove, sort it out here, give Eder the full 90 against Falkirk. Yep.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Great call.
So, yeah, to finish off the pod here, I just want to just say, if you want any of the Celtic Down Under merch, hoodies, T-shirts, they're available at CelticDownUnder.com. You can find all our social media channels on the bottom of the screen here. So at Celtic Down on Instagram and Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, search for Celtic Down Under, look for the boxing kangaroo over the Shamrock logo. And yeah, you'll be able to find us easy enough there, and give them a like and subscribe. YouTube, subscribe. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers this season. So we're about 100 away. So yeah, if we can get there, to be handy. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back on the channel in a little while with the weekend review, boys. And then Thursday night, we'll be back with a Thursday sesh to talk about the Bratislava game and preview into the weekend. So until then, thanks for tuning in. And we didn't go final thought, Shane. You got a final thought?
Yeah, I do. And it's a shout out to our former gaffer, Ange Postecoglou. So there's a biography that's been released, written by very esteemed football journalist Vince Strigari. It's the biography of Ange Postecoglou. It's titled Ange Ball. And it's a great history into Ange from the start, from the South Melbourne days, from when he first came to Australia, into his South Melbourne career, to all his trials and tribulations all the way through, including his wonderful time managing the Hoops, as well as Melbourne Victory, of course, for that small stint. I'm only halfway through it. It's a really wonderful read. It's got a lot of good commentary in it, not just the writing that Vince has put together, but a lot of guests, people who are close to Ange. It's a really, really detailed book with some great insights. I'd highly recommend getting your hands on it. It's called Ange Ball, and it's the definitive biography of Ange Postecoglou. So it's available in all good bookstores. Definitely get it. It's a good read.
And it's also available at Big W and Target, so not good bookstores either. And my final thought is, you're welcome. See you, boys.